Okay, we'll call this regular council meeting to order for January the 26th. It's 3 p.m. And we'll ask Councillor Wing to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing. And we'll move on to 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are not.
Okay, thank you. Director Jenkins, just have somebody please make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Councillor Russell.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda.
Perfect. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I just want to mention that Councillor Strong is joining us online today. Okay, I'll move into 3.1, I should say, in the regular council meeting minutes for January the 12th. Please have someone make a motion to adopt those. Councillor Hill?
Yes, Mayor Barclay, I'll make that motion.
Perfect. Any discrepancies in them, changes? No. All in favor? Carried. And then the agenda and priorities meeting for January the 19th. Councillor McKellar?
Mayor Barclay, I'll make that motion.
Perfect.
Minutes.
Any changes needed? No. All in favor? Okay. Carried. All right, we'll move into 4.1, and I'll ask Director Vickers to please introduce our delegation today.
Yes, thank you. So annually, and with the having a new council here, we do like to have our auditors come in and just do a little presentation before council that is kind of separate and apart from our year end. They'll be back in a couple of months again, but just give this opportunity to kind of go over why we audit, give the opportunity to have some questions. So we have here Mitchell Kennedy, so he is kind of our manager for our account for BDO, and he'll be here to lead the presentation.
Okay, great, thank you and welcome.
I didn't struggle too bad with the mic this time, so thanks for having me, everybody. So doesn't matter, we can talk about this one. So every year when we do an audit, one of the key checks that we do is it's an independence check. So anytime we provide assurance, so in this case an audit on the financial statements for the town, we have to make sure that we are truly independent of the entity in which we're performing that work. So this is just a formal letter from us, which is just declaring that we are truly independent of the municipality. If something were to breach our independence, we would have to effectively step away from the engagement. Things that would impede our independence would be things like if we had any kind of financial incentive outside of the normal scope of the engagement to do this work. We can propose adjusting journal entries and we can help with the preparation of the financial statements, but ultimately the decision of the financial statements and the adjustments and the entries all fall on management and council. So yeah, just to reiterate, we are independent, which is why we're allowed to do this engagement in the first place. And then if we can start with this. So we'll just jump to the introduction stage really quickly. So I know some of you are familiar with me, but there is another individual by the name of Lorraine Walker. She's the partner on the engagement. She's based out of Calgary. She's a board member for BDO Canada. So she's the one that ultimately takes responsibility on BDO side of the financial statements. And so the way it typically works is we will have a preparer, several preparers on the engagement that effectively do the ground level work. They'll do the vouching, the ticking, the bobbing. And then once that's done, it then goes to me for review. And then after I do my review, it then goes to Lorraine Walker for final review. And so sometimes, in this case, there's going to be ARO adoption, which is section 3280. When that gets adopted, we have to add another layer of review to make sure that that adoption is done correctly. So that's just to reiterate that there's multiple people and hands involved with the engagement to make sure that these financial statements will be presented fairly at the end of the day. And yeah, Lorraine Walker, she's been doing this for over 30 years, so she's my mentor. I've been doing this for 13 plus years, and I specialize specifically with municipalities. So it's my song and dance. So this is the expected timeline of our engagement. So we are here in December, working with Erica and her team to do what we call interim testing. So interim testing, we get a financial statement cutoff as up to however far they are in the reconciliation period. And typically what we do is we'll come out and we'll do income statement testing. So that will be typically your revenue and your expenses, your payroll, and sometimes your grants and property tax revenue, depending on where they are at the cycle. And for whatever isn't done, we'll then come and do our final field work, which is up at March. So when everything's finalized from the trial balance for management side, we'll then do our balance sheet testing, and then we will do whatever remaining top-up testing needs to be done that wasn't delivered at interim. Once we're done our field work and we're comfortable with the work that we've done, we'll then come back here in front of council in April, and we'll do a similar presentation. So this is the planning presentation. We'll do a final presentation, which concludes our audit opinion and financial statements. And then effectively we'll be relying on council to approve or make a motion to approve the financial statements at that point in time. And then we'll give it the BDO stamp saying that these financial statements are good and they're in management and council's hands. So that's kind of our expected timeline right now. So auditor's responsibilities, at the end of the day, our responsibility is to work with management and provide an opinion on the financial statements. So you'll hear the term unqualified. So when I say you guys have an unqualified set of financial statements, just know that that's a good thing. If it was a bad thing, we would say it was a qualified opinion. So qualified usually means there's like a scope limitation, meaning we couldn't get assurance over a specific area. Or we did qualifications historically on ARO because ARO wasn't adopted yet. So in order to have that qualification fully removed, you would theoretically have to be in compliance to all the standards that are out there. So this year we are removing that qualification. So you will have what will be called an unqualified opinion, assuming all the information and everything is good by the time we do our final field work. So if we were ever aware of any situation that would impede our audit or have any kind of significant influence on it, it is our responsibility to come in front of management and council to address whatever situation came effectively immediately. So we do have a little blurb in here which says we will do control work, but when we do control work, we're only going to look at controls that are relevant to the audit. So this municipality will have other controls, but those controls don't necessarily impact the actual financial statements themselves, so we won't necessarily rely on those controls. We're only looking at the controls that are relevant to the financial statements. This is always a weird slide to talk about. I just want to say we're not aware of any situations of fraud, but we always have to talk about it. If at any point throughout the course of our engagement you guys are aware of any situation of fraud, please bring it to our attention. In the course of an audit, we're not specifically looking for fraud, although we do cater our risks to address fraud risks. And in doing so, if there's ever a situation of fraud, we need to know what kind of scope or limitation or issue that's going to cause from a financial standpoint that we need to address and make sure we mitigate it as much as possible. But at the end of the day, we're not aware of anything. If we were ever aware of it, we would have to communicate that to council. So you just jump to the next one. So these are two significant risks that we have every year in our engagement for Town of Innisfail. So the management override of controls, that risk has to be there because you have a couple individuals that theoretically have the ability to override financial controls to post whatever they want. We mitigate that control by doing what we call manual adjusted journal entry testing. So any entry that gets posted by those individuals will actually go through to make sure that they are true in form and nature. And then there's the revenue recognition. So that's more of a timing thing. So section 3410, it's specific to grants. When you receive a grant, it's important that you're recognizing that grant in correspondence to the related expenses, meaning that it shouldn't ever touch your income statement unless you incurred those expenses. But there's also another term in the handbook called stipulation. If you have a grant, you need to make sure there's a stipulation tied to that grant, meaning that if somebody were to give you money and they said, I need you to do this to repair your hockey arena. And if you go back to them and say, well, what if I don't spend this money on the hockey arena? What if I do something else with it? And they go, that's fine, you don't have to pay it back. That means you should recognize that revenue immediately, regardless of whether or not you've actually incurred that expense. So when it comes to grants, we need to make sure that there's truly stipulations tied to the grants, even if they might have an intended use for them. So it's our job to go in there, read the grant agreements, and make sure that everything's recorded appropriately. So, and then materiality. So materiality is a number that will potentially move. So what it does is it drives our sampling forms. And so depending on what the number is, it will spit out a number with our risk level saying this is how many things in that specific area you'll need to look at. So if we're doing payroll testing, we would throw that number into our sampling form, and then it would say you need to look at 30 different samples. So that number would fluctuate depending on what our materiality level is. And so materiality is calculated using, we take into consideration the users of the financial statement. So we'll take into consideration like your ratepayers, the province of Alberta, anyone that's lending you money, anybody that would be interested in how the municipality is doing from a going concern perspective. So, or a not going concern perspective, anyone that'd be interested in the financial statements. So we calculate that number based off of 4.5% of your total expenses in the year. So at interim, you didn't have your capital assets finished, which is normal. You don't typically do that until December because there's things like amortization that would get thrown off, your equity and TCA gets impacted by it. So what we did for our interim materialities, we took prior year amortization and we added that on top of the expenses to estimate what our interim value should be. And then there's something called triviality. So triviality is another number. It's 5% of materiality. And what that means is if we ever came across an issue where something looked like an error and it was only 5% of materiality, we would document that this is trivial and we wouldn't do anything with it. We would say it had no impact to the users. It's just a small number in relation to the financial statements as a whole. That's not to say we ignore all things that are under that 5% threshold. If something had some kind of ethical impact or some kind of thing that somebody might be interested in, we'll consider that and determine whether or not it should be proposed based off of who we might think would be interested in knowing that piece of information. If we have unadjusted errors, so we will often give what's called a SLAM, or you guys might know it as SUD. It's a schedule of likely aggregate misstatement or a schedule of unadjusted entries. That's all the entries that we think should be posted that never made it to the financial statements, but they will never be over materiality. If we ever think there's errors over materiality in our work, it will impact our opinion on the financial statements to potentially being qualified up to being something pervasive where we couldn't even issue an audit report. So generally speaking, there might be unadjusted entries, but we don't think they will be material, and so we will provide you a list of what those unadjusted entries are, just so you guys are aware of the entries that we think should be there, but they're not significant. So, okay, so this is our audit plan. Effectively, this is kind of cradle to grave what we do from the beginning to the end. You should just know that this little diagram is circular in nature, and it's intended to be that way. And the reason for it is we could be literally at stage 1 of the plan where we're just doing our scoping, and we could be all the way near the end where we're here in front of council being ready to communicate, and something happens or something gets communicated to us where something might have an impact on the financial statements, and before we're able to release financial statements, we potentially might need to go all the way back to square one or circle one, horrible joke, to make sure we're mitigating that risk. But yeah, the whole audit process is a moving target up until we release the financial statements. So I'm not going to make you guys go through the rest of the slides because they're our marketing team slides and they're not really necessary for this presentation. So I'll save you guys some time with that. I do have a quick list here of things that are going to be changing in the municipal world all the way up to 2031. I'll just quickly rattle them off. And I know in the municipal world, like there's been a lot of changes from the accounting perspective. Like last year, there was public-private partnerships that came out. There was Section 3400, which is revenue recognition for goods and services, and the potential to capitalize intangible assets. The year before that, we had ARO adoption. We had financial instruments, 3450. So now you guys get a little bit of a break for a couple of years. So in 2027, there's going to be something called conceptual framework that rolls out. So what that is going to mean is the face of your financial statements are going to change. And the reason they're going to change is because a lot of people have difficulty trying to read municipal financial statements. So they're trying to streamline them so they're structurally similar to something like a for-profit entity. So somebody would understand structurally what the financial statements mean. So that's going to be a pretty significant undertaking that we'll be working with management to make sure that we have everything figured out in the next couple of years before we present the 2027 year end. 2027, it's also going to look at revenue standards that are already out there. So it's going to look at revenue 3400 and 3410. They're trying to make things less up to judgment and more specific. So in the accounting world, we'll often get a lot of questions, and it's a joke that a lot of these questions are going to depend on the circumstance, so we always say it depends. They're trying to get rid of the it depends part and basically make it more streamlined so everybody's consistent with the standards. They're also going to look at financial instruments again. And then there's the dreaded PS 3255, which is the sick leave accrual. So if you had a non-vesting sick leave accrual that carried forward into previous years, you would have to consider whether or not you have a liability on your financial statements. That standard is being merged with 3250 to create 3251, which is going to be called employee benefits. And then in 2031, they're adding new classes to your TCA. So they're going to be adding, it's like an art and like an antique classification to your capital assets. So if you have like paintings or really old stuff in your museum, you could theoretically capitalize it. So yeah, those are just changes. The big one is going to be 2027, and the other ones aren't going to have too much of a significant impact, but 2027 is going to be a big year. So that's my spiel. So if you guys have questions.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mitchell. Does anybody have any questions for Mitchell? Not yet. Not till April, maybe.
That's fine.
All right. No. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
We appreciate
thanks.
your time as always, and
Likewise.
We'll see you soon. See you in spring.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to 5.1, the council action control. Anybody have any questions about anything that is on here? If not, I'll just have a motion, please, to accept the council action control as information. Councillor Wing.
Mayor Barclay, I would move to accept the council action control as information.
Perfect. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, and we'll go into 6.1 with breathing apparatus purchase with Director Leaf.
Yeah, as per the town's procurement policy, we require council to approve the purchases above 75,000. Council approved in the 2026 budget purchase of SCBA through Red Deer County to the sum of $175,000. Red Deer County were able to negotiate that down. Our portion of that bill came out at $139,000. The savings were realised as part of this joint purchase, and with a purchase price of over $1.2 million. It allows us also to achieve standardisation of equipment across our mutual aid partners.
Okay, thank you, Director Leith. Just have somebody please make the recommended motion. Councillor Hill.
Yes, Mayor Barkley, I'll make the motion that council approves the purchase of the self-contained breathing apparatus, Red Deer County, of $139,000.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Director Leith on the purchase? No? All in favor? All right, carried. Okay, move into 7.1 with policy framework updates, and Director Vickers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So I do have just, again, some policy updates to provide council with, a couple policies being repealed. So administration does regularly review council policies as part of ongoing housekeeping to ensure the policy framework remains current and also aligned with council's governance role. So this report just represents a portion of that work. Through this review, a number of older policies have been identified for repeal or reclassification or follow-up where they're no longer required at the council level, or have already been supported by other current policies that we have inactive, or they're just better managed administratively. So in several cases, updated policies are already in place, and it was just a mishap that these policies weren't repealed at that time. So there is a number of policies here that we are looking to get repealed. So the large item pickup. So this is just a service level addition. It's actually part of our contract with our current waste services provider. So that does come before council at that point to kind of have those discussions. The graffiti removal kit is just an obsolete. It's really just a procedural item that we deal with. There's a couple here that have had administrative policies been created, so we no longer need these ones. And then a couple more that are just obsolete are now procedural. We do have a couple here below that we are currently under review to see if we need to repeal them or they do need to be updated to be brought into our current format. So accounting for tangible capital assets, our water treatment and distribution policy, and then as well as declaration of certain days, weeks, activities within the town of Innisfil. Then we have just a kind of a large list here that realistically need to be updated simply around the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, just around that verbiage to remove FOIP and put in the two updated policies. However, we'll take that time to put it into the corrected format, make sure we're still compliant with all legislation, and see if there's any other things that need to be changed in there. So I'll take any comments any council may have.
All right, thank you, Director Vickers. Does anybody have any questions about the report itself? Any clarification needed? If not, I'll have somebody please make the motion. Councillor McKellar.
I'll move that council approves the policy framework updates as outlined in the report, including the repeal of the 12 identified policies.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the policies that we're repealing? Don't see any. All in favor? Right, carried. Okay, and we'll go on to 7.2, again with Director Vickers and the council meeting delegation policy.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Barkley. Well, we did bring this policy last week for council to review during the AMP meeting. Council reviewed it, gave some comments, and we're back here again today for formal approval. So based on the comments from last week, Section 11 has been added to this draft policy to clarify that whenever the CAO does turn down someone for a delegation, that information will be brought towards council in some form so that you guys are aware about that is. But then this will just kind of establish further the general process for those delegations for when people do come before council, just so it's clear. So when someone does apply to become a delegation, we'll still publicly put this policy out there, but really that training will happen when someone applies. We'll educate them on the policy and process for when they actually want to become a delegation. So I'll take any other comments that council may have, but.
All right, thank you. Director Vickers, I'll just have somebody make the motion, please. Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. I'll make the motion that council approves the council meeting delegations policy 2026-004 as presented.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the contents of the policy? Councillor
Just to
Russell?
comment, glad to see that number 11 was added. I think it's important that council know if someone was denied that. So pleased to see that. That's all I have.
Okay, anything else? Nothing? Okay, all in favor? Carried. And now we'll move into 7.3, use of public lands for sidewalk, patio, or merchant display with Director Vickers.
Perfect, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So we do have a policy called the use of public lands for sidewalk, patio, merchant display. This is for when they are using like our public streets, so the Persian House is kind of what this would be referencing. So we're bringing this back forward simply with a minor administrative update, and realistically, we wanted to remove the provision for making someone who has been previously approved to force them to come every year and reapply. So we would like to take that portion out of this policy. However, that does not remove the requirement for any insurance requirements or any other of those annual requirements they have to provide back to us. But just to kind of keep things, they've already been pre-approved, as long as nothing's changing, we would like them to just be kind of status quo kind of thing, so. And we just updated it for, just kind of put it into our nice format and made it kind of look like the rest of our policies as well.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. So that the pre-approval, will they know, like, do they need to come back every year and produce insurance documents?
Yes, so
and-
anyone who has
okay.
been approved, Mayor Barkley, of having a patio, already knows that they have to do those annual
Okay.
requirements, and we'll update them that they no longer have to go through the approval process now,
Yeah.
and only just the insurance requirements will
Sure.
need to be updated going forward.
Okay, thank you. Just have somebody make the recommended motion, please. Councillor Heistad.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. That council recommendation that council approves the use of public lands for sidewalk, patio, or merchant display policy 2026-002 as presented.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about this policy? Councillor McKellar?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Barkley, and through to Director Vickers. Just in looking at that policy, so if they make changes, they have to come back, reapply, is what you're saying?
Mayor Barkley, through to McKellar, yes, they would have to reach out through to the approving body, which would be under Director Jenkins, and ask those questions and see if they would likely need to reapply if it was impactful enough to the public space.
Okay, and a supplement question to that, then Mayor Barkley through to Director Vickers. So if they reapply, does that go in front of MPC then if they make changes?
No?
Simply administrative?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor McKellar, no, based on it would not go before MPC.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if not, all in favor? All right, carry unanimously, thank you. And then last of this section, 7.4, service requests complaint resolution policy with
Yes,
Director
thank you, Mayor
Vickers.
Barkley. We did have this policy before you not too long ago, and then we decided we were going to come and give it kind of a refresh. We wanted to, so the policy before was from 2018, so we wanted to bring that back in and ultimately update the FOIP information that was and the language of FOIP in the policy. We decided to also take that time to kind of revamp it. This new policy just modernizes the framework by clearly defining and distinguishing between the request for service, what an informal and what a formal complaint is. So the requests for service are really items that are just operational in nature. You're just kind of letting us know that something happened, we need to go fix it, right? A tree fell down, my garbage didn't get picked up. We're just being notified and we're going to deal with it right away. It moves into that informal complaint if the resident or the customer is dissatisfied with that service response. So either it didn't happen quick enough or it happened in a way that they weren't appreciative. They're intended to be resolved at kind of that supervisory level, maybe one level up, but really not going, once it gets to a formal complaint, now the CAO is getting involved and being notified that something happened, it was tried to be dealt with at that kind of supervisor, lower management level. It did not work, so it kind of needs to come up to more a formal complaint. It also does kind of identify and it formalizes the use of the new Q Alert system apart from CivicWeb, which we did used to use. Q Alert is now the primary tool for receiving, tracking, logging, and reporting all of those service-related matters. And then Q Alert also supports trend analysis to inform any operational review and continuous service improvements. So this policy is going to continue to be communicated to the public, including updates to the town's website. We are going through a website refresh, and once that refresh is finished, the Q Alert and that request for service kind of will be very forward-facing as soon as you enter on the website. So I'll take any comments or questions that council may have.
Thank you, Director Vickers. Let's have somebody please make the recommended motion. Councillor Wing.
Excuse me, thank you, Mayor Barkley. I would move that council approves service requests and complaints resolution policy 2026-003 as presented.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Question. So can you give us a little bit of overview on Q Alert and how that's working? Because it's been a little bit now that we've had that in place. And
Sure. So, Mayor Barkley, so we've had it up running for almost a full year now. And so the entire internal staff is utilizing it. And we've only just recently started telling the public that it's live. And now, so if we get a phone call into the office, we generally do kind of push the public to kind of enter in their own complaint. The public can choose how they want to be notified back. So that can either be through an email, which if they choose email, it should automatically kind of go in the system. They can ask for a text message as well, or a phone call back. It really tracks open complaints versus closed complaints, so we can keep a better control over what has been responded to and what hasn't. One of the good things in this system is there's escalations. So let's say someone makes a complaint, it gets assigned to myself, and I forget about it because I'm busy. And actually an escalation is built into the system. After so many days, someone else will get notified that, hey, something hasn't happened on this file for 7 days. Someone needs to maybe look at it, right? So we can kind of maintain a better control. We will bring in the stats for 2025 to council just to kind of show you what we're looking with. But again, this is the first year of this system, so we have many, many more tracked items that we're tracking from past years. So it may look, we don't want the numbers to look off from last year, but yeah. So it really gives us greater administrative control so that we can just manage those complaints a little bit better. It gives us better control to kind of track down people who complain, and we can link complaints together more easily. And one of the nice things for other departments, we can see heat tracking too, right? Over certain complaints, maybe this street has lots of animal complaints on it, or things like that, right? So it kind of gives us better reporting as well.
so if someone's not using the online portal, they come in, I assume that gets logged into the Q Alert
Absolutely.
system.
Yeah, so if anyone who either calls in or comes to the front counter, a staff member will log it for them, right? So we log them every day.
Yeah, so for council, if we get a complaint, we're likely best to suggest they log into Q Alert.
Yes.
And then,
It's
They
better
will-
that we get the detail from the
Yes.
complainant specifically, and especially then for feedback or follow-up after, especially if it's, say, a bylaw or an operations, they want to touch back to that person and either give that feedback, either it's completed or whatever else, or they might have further questions. So it is always better that they either can go online and just pop that in themselves, or they can even call the office and anyone who answers the phone can help them through that
yeah,
complaint.
and I personally have had good feedback from residents that have used it, because they do get contacted,
Yeah.
for a call back or text or something, and they
Yeah.
know that it's resolved, and so. yeah.
Again, it's much more, it's tracked more heavily for staff, so that I think it does create faster feedback, so.
For sure. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions? No? Okay, so we have a motion. All in favor? Carried. All right. We'll move into 8.1. Correspondence, our one item. If anybody wants to log into this, or maybe Director Kennedy will give us the EPR update someday. That was not a big yes.
That was just reassuring.
Just have a motion, please, to accept the correspondence as information.
Mayor Barkley, I'll move that we accept the correspondence as information.
Thank you, Councillor McKellar. All in favor? Okay, and we'll just go through our reports now. We'll begin with Councillor Wing today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I did submit a report. I was not able, last week to attend the library's sneak peek of the new children's section, but when we were there for our elected official emergency management training, I did kind of pop in and had a bit of a private tour, so I'm really excited about that. Congratulations to the library. I did not include a session that I actually participated in at noon today. It was an online workshop titled Integrating Climate Considerations into Council Decision-Making. It was held by the Prairies chapter of Climate Caucus, and the presenters were, I was fascinated, or I was intrigued by the presenters as much as the topic. Mayor Knack and Councillor Tang from Edmonton, the Mayor of Banff, Mayor Domano, and then Drew Farrell, who was a 20-year councillor in the city of Calgary. It was very interesting, but one takeaway that I just thought I would share with you was listening to Banff as a smaller community. Banff is about 50% larger than us, but they went through quite an interesting process where they actually had their summer students for a couple of years analyzing their landfill content, and then taking that data, went back to some of their chain restaurants and fast food kinds of facilities, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, Starbucks, etc. And as a result of being able to provide them with data and talking about the things that were sitting in their landfill, Tim Hortons is now back to providing ceramic plates and cups for in-store dining. They charge 25 cents per plastic bag in Banff, so they're trying to reduce that. They've had really good cooperation from the businesses and the citizens as a whole. They're promoting the use of multi-use cups, and so they sell them for a little bit more of a premium, I think, in some of the restaurants. But if someone's there for a conference, they can buy a multi-use cup and then just take it back and get a deal on their coffee, that kind of thing. I thought it was creative, and I just thought it was one way of engaging, especially as we move forward with our waste-to-energy work, engaging our community in what the realities really are and being able to provide data for them. So it was a really interesting session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Strong. I can't see you on the screen right now, but there you are.
I am here. I'm not here. I'm in Montreal. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. The only thing I'd add to my report, I did say I was at the IDR mug, and I just can't believe how much I didn't know about water, which I like to swim and drink it and everything else. So really looking forward to the next meeting. We had a great presentation from the South Saskatchewan River Board, and hopefully bring back some more information after the next meeting.
That's great. Thank you very much. And Councillor Hill.
Yes, Mayor Barkley. So obviously had a great time at the elected official emergency training. Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening to see just how much goes into being prepared and all the different layers. And yeah, there's DDEMS and DEMS. It was all the acronyms. I wrote them down and tried to kind of somewhat piece them together throughout the day. So, and then lastly, I tried to assist the ski hill with getting some snow made, but we were about all set up, and unfortunately the snow guns or snow cannons were defective once we got water supplied to them. So a lot of work for a lot of no snow. So.
Thank you. And Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. I submitted my report. Just want to highlight that healthcare webinar that I attended. I think Councillor McKellar was in that one as well. It was just an interesting overview of some advocacy efforts being done, some of the programs and issues related to the healthcare shortage, or I guess retention and attraction of healthcare workers. So it was interesting to hear. I don't think there's anything really shocking. I think the further you get away from the Highway 2 corridor, the more pronounced it gets. But certainly was interesting to hear everything that's being done. So,
All right. Thank you. And Councillor McKellar.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. My report's been submitted. I guess if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I've had a pretty fun week last week with lacrosse, with Literacy Day. If you want to know more about Literacy Day, you can speak with the mayor. I assisted her, and it was fun. And a real eye-opener for me was attending the 4-H speaking competitions. I thought that was really good to watch these youth grow and learn how they're going to go forward. And you can see some future leaders in that group.
Thank you. So you don't want to get into the story about the pushing the grocery cart? That's okay. No, that's okay. I won't bother. Okay. Councillor Heistad?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. The only thing I'd like to add is I swung by the library on the 25th, which was a Sunday, that Literacy Day, and seeing the reopening of the children's room there. So that was really good. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And my report is submitted. So we'll move on to 10.1 and upcoming events. Any changes, additions, anything that anybody sees? If not, I'll just have somebody make a motion that we accept the upcoming events as information. Councillor Russell.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion, but then I have a question after.
Okay, for sure.
Can
Okay.
I ask my question now?
Yes, definitely.
I just need clarification on the aquatic center. I saw one invitation, I think there was that one, and then I thought I saw another one that included Red Deer County. That was
That's
at
correct, yeah.
10?
Yes,
Are we going
we're
to
doing
both?
we're doing one with just us this week, and then we've invited Red Deer County to come for a tour.
And which was the date of the one that Red Deer County is coming?
February 27th, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
All right.
later in.
So we are then
Yeah.
at 1 o'clock, or was it 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
I believe we're 2 o'clock this
on
week.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Carried. And then we will have a motion to go in camera. Councillor
I'll
Heistad,
make a motion to go in camera.
can you please read the motion that's on the
Oh.
screen? Sorry, but it's a
The
new thing.
motion, the new thing. Motion to go in camera. The council moves into camera pursuant to MGA 197-2/ATIA 29.
Perfect, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried.
Steve, walk over.